One of the most beautiful days of my life was the day I said goodbye to my grandpa. He died while I was away saying my own goodbye to a mentor. And while I had said a just-in-case goodbye to him every time I left him for the 10 years before, it was still tremendously sad. When I arrived home, I drove straight to the funeral home an hour away to sit beside his body, peacefully at rest, while I sang him his favorite song just one more time. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. My grandpa taught me so many things about living. He taught me to pick raspberries off the tree and eat them before Grandma caught us and lectured us all. He taught us to be kind to our siblings, to always ask for dessert, to enjoy a nap in a chair. He showed me with his example how to speak kindly about people, how to be content with what you have, and how to enjoy the things you love, like cards and teasing and a great sandwich. I wish I was as good at living these lessons as he was. Nearly 20 years before Grandpa died at 97, he went home one day and told Grandma and their children that he had put himself on the list for the care home, and that when a room was available, he would be moving in. After 2 strokes, it was becoming too hard for her to care for him, and they had a wonderful staff there, and he knew it was a big change, but he was doing it. I have only a few memories of Grandpa before the strokes. He was chasing us down the path at the lake, or pulling us into bed with him and Grandma when we slept over, something my parents never allowed. His driving up to the farm to check the crops with my dad. Most of the rest of my memories involved his new home, racing the nurses down the hallway in his lap in the motorized wheelchair, playing bingo and watching him giggle when his good luck streak had him robbing his neighbors of their quarters, and tears filling his eyes when my mom and I would go to play and sing for the residents at the lodge. For the last 10 years of his life, when I arrived for a visit and asked how he was, he'd say, pretty good for a guy waiting to die." It made me uncomfortable, but it also became oddly familiar. He was always honest about the challenges of aging, and even though he complained about his failing eyes and his non-cooperative hands, he never missed a single point in cribbage. For most of my life, he was showing me how to live by letting go with grace. Grandpa lived little deaths his whole life. He had to stay home from the war that killed his brother because of flat feet. He married late in part because he stayed home during the Depression to help his parents raise his siblings. He and my grandma raised 5 kids with not much money in an old farmhouse with a garden hose bringing water out of the kitchen sink. When he finally got to share the farm labor with my dad, the first stroke forced him to relearn how to walk and talk and write with his left hand. Grandpa knew that we walked towards death our whole lives, and he let the little deaths teach him how to die, so waiting for death was not new. It was new for me. When he asked how much I was making at my summer job in Ottawa after my first year of university, working in front of a computer, my answer made him laugh out loud and cry at the same time. He didn't make that much money during the whole Depression. Over 20 growing up years, Grandpa taught me that suffering and dying teaches us lessons that no other life experience can. Death forces us to let go of things and people we would otherwise never release. It paves the way for changes, reminds us that we are stronger than we imagine, that new possibilities await us when what we have cherished lies in ashes around our feet. Several years ago, I met my own weakness in postpartum and then a more sustained depression. I couldn't go visit Grandpa anymore because he'd already gone, but he visited me in my memories many times. If he could let me deal the cards and place them in his stiff hands, then I could let my mom fold the laundry when I was too sad to lift myself out of bed. My perfectionism needed to die, at least a little, for me to find the new life of receiving help. When I held my middle baby, 2 years old, in an isolation room while doctors whispered outside about what could be causing him to stop eating, it was letting go of Grandpa that calmed my fears about maybe having to let go of my son earlier than I'd hoped. Elliot got well, thank God, but Grandpa taught me that living involves dying whether I want it or not, and that I need to learn its lessons. None of us are guaranteed health or even life tomorrow, and there is living to do even in the midst of suffering. I don't know when I will be invited to live through my own final death, but I hope that my death will be a gift to others in the way that Grandpa's dying was a gift to me. In the meantime, I get to practice living through the little death life offers. Putting down the book I really want to finish before it has to go back to the library. Just one time to pick up a child who has another owie. Or saying goodbye to a job I adore because our family needs something my current job cannot offer. Or choosing to live through the darker days of depression by doing small things with gratitude. Taking food for a friend fighting for her life against breast cancer. Or sitting with someone in terrible pain just so that they know that they're not alone. Since there's no life without death, we might as well learn to do it well and to enjoy the gifts that show up even there. May I not waste Grandpa's death. May the lessons and gifts he offered me in his living and his dying take root and have new life in my life and in my death, so that something beautiful can come from living something hard. Amen.